Find the value of, if AC and DE intersect at B, find the value of X in the measure of angle EBA. Always circle what you're looking for so that you make sure you read the question correctly. I know we ran into some of that on the quiz and the test. Make sure you know what you're looking for. First of all, we've got two intersecting lines. They share a vertex, and they're not right next to each other. These are vertical angles. So these are vertical. They're vertical angles. That's how I write angles. So what do you know about vertical angles? Okay, if you look up at the top, it says vertical angles are always what? And that is going to be congruent, okay, or equal. We will say congruent, especially once we get into proofs and shapes, but right now you can say congruent or equal. They're congruent or equal, which means they have equal measure, which means that 2x plus 20 has to equal 3x plus 15. They're vertical angles. They're equal to each other. They're congruent to each other. So we're going to solve this out for x. So I know that the two angles have to be equal. So I'm going to subtract the 2x from both sides. So I'm left with 20 equals x plus 15. And remember, we ran into this on the test I saw. Don't subtract it more than once or add it more than once to each side. Some of you did something where you did subtract minus 2x, and then you did minus 2x here, and now you're subtracting 4x instead of 2x. You only subtract the value once from each side or add the value once from each side. So make sure you don't repeat the operations. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move that 15. That's going to give me 5. So x is 5. There's my first step. What am I still looking for? The measure of EBA. So I'm going to take that x and I'm going to plug it back in. EBA is this angle right here. Remember how you look for your angles. So 2x plus 20 is EBA. So I'm going to plug in 5 for x. So I've got 2 times 5 plus 20, which is 10 plus 20, which is 30 degrees. And that is what we call the measure of EBA, and that's how you write it, the measure of EBA. You put an M, a small angle symbol, and then the angle name. If you want to check your answer, if we plug in 5 here, we should also get 30, because what do you know about vertical angles? They're congruent, so let's check it out. 3 times 5 plus 15 equals 15 plus 15, which is also 30. So yes, we got the right answer. Now let's move down to linear pair. We've got a linear pair. Linear pairs, the sum of the measures of the angle in a linear pair we talked about earlier is always 180 degrees. It's always 180 for a linear pair. So when you look at this picture here, it says line LN and line OP intersect at point M. Find the value of x. So here we go. I want to know x. And the measures of LMO and OMN. So I'm finding 3 different things here. So let's look at the picture. 7x plus 20 is this angle, and 5x plus 10 is this angle. If I look at these 2 angles here, what are they forming? They form a straight line, right? So that's what makes my linear pair. They make a straight line. So these 2 angles make a straight line. If I were to put my hand here and eliminate these angles, those 2 angles together that we're looking at make a straight line, which means their sum is 180. So all I have to do is set up an equation that reflects the 180 as the sum. So 7x plus 20 plus 5x plus 10 is going to equal 180 degrees. So I'm going to move, and I'm going to look at the common terms. I'm going to look at the like terms. So I've got a 7x and a 5x. I can combine those, and that's 12x when I add them. I've got a positive 20 and a positive 10. That gives me 30 equals 180. Again, we're just moving along with the sequence of your algebra. Now I'm going to move the 30 over. So 12x equals 150. And then I'm going, my very last step to solve for x is I'm going to divide both sides by 12. So x will equal 150 divided by 12. And that's going to be, let's see here, 12.5. So 12.5 is your x value. So I found my x value. Now I got to find LMO and OMN. So I'm going to take that 12.5 and I'm going to plug it in. So let's look at the first one. Let's do this one first. Let's do LMO. LMO is 7x plus 20. Let's plug in the 12.5. So I've got 7 times 12.5 plus 20. All I'm doing is plugging in. So 7 times 12 is 84, but when we're multiplying by 12.5, so it's going to be 87.5 plus 20, and that's going to give us, for that angle, 107.5. So that's this angle. Now once you know LMO, so I'm going to say the measure of angle LMO equals 107.5. Once you know this, you can actually subtract from 180 to find the other angle. So I can do 180 minus 107.5, and that should give me OMN, which is this guy. So that's going to be 72.5 degrees, and that's equal to the measure of angle OMN. However, I want to check this out and make sure I got the right answer. Make sure that 12.5 is legitimate. So I'm going to take the 5x plus 10 up here, and I'm going to have 5 times x, which is 12.5, plus 10, just to check my answer. And this is 62.5 plus 10, which is indeed 72.5. So that's how you find your answers. X is 12.5, LMO is 107.5, and OMN is 72.5. On example 4, you're looking at more vertical angles. So we're looking at these vertical angles here. Let's go ahead and solve these. Again, find the value of x and find the measure now. Well, we know that these two angles are vertical because it's two intersecting lines and they're across from each other. They're non-adjacent. So I know that 16x minus 20 has to equal 13x plus 7. So I'm going to solve this for x. I'm going to subtract 13x from both sides. So I've got 3x minus 20 equals 7. Then I'm going to move the constant. Remember what a constant is. A constant's a non-variable. I'm going to add the 20 to both sides. So 3x equals 27. So my last step is going to be to divide both sides by 3. So x equals 9. There's the first part. Now I need to find JIH. JIH is this angle right here. JIH. So I'm looking for this one. How does that help me to know x? Well, what is JIH right next to? You see how JIH, if I were to completely get rid of this part, do you see how JIH, which is the one we're looking for, is right next to JIG? And what do those make? Those make a linear pair, right? So what do they add up to? 180. So if I know JIG, I can find JIH by subtracting from 180. So I'm going to take JIG, which is 16x minus 20, and I'm going to plug in that 9 that I got for x. So 16 times 9 minus 20. Multiply that out. 9 times 16 is 144 minus 20, which is 124 degrees. So that means this is 124 degrees. So how do I find this one? Well, I know again that they are a linear pair. They're a linear pair. They're going to add to 180. So I'm going to take 180 and I'm going to subtract 124, and that's going to give me 56 degrees, which is the measure of my angle. And again, if you want to make sure the 124 is correct, you can take the 9 and plug it into 13x plus 7 and make sure you get 124 also for the verticals. So I got 90 and 27 is 117 plus 7 is 124. So I know that I substituted it correctly. So